And welcome everybody. It's the Betway Beat brought to you by SoccerBeat, and it's Peter Toit and Grant de Smidt. Grant, welcome back. You just arrived back from doing your UEFA A license from Scotland. Welcome back to cold Cape Town, but I'm sure that wasn't as warm as your Scotland wasn't as warm as a cold Cape Town. Right. Why we got Grant on the show, guys? Grant is probably the top analyst I know in South African football, with his coaching background and his badges. And the two biggest stories right now warrant a proper look at it, an analyst look at it. Orlando Pirates shocked everybody by getting Abdeslam Ouaddou as their new coach and the signing of Sipho Mbule. Both of these moves could end up being disasters or incredible surprise successes. It is really that. It's not going to be in between this. They're either going to be successes, huge successes, masterstrokes from management, or they're going to be failures. And Grant is going to look at the chances of success with both. And Grant, let's look straight away at new coach. Why would they select this unknown coach to a certain extent over and above Rulani Mokwena? They got it right with Jose Rivera. Will they get it right again, or should they have gone for Rulani?
Yeah, it's the big question. I think it's continuity, their main motivation. Yeah, they had 3 great seasons with Rivera. He did bring some of his own staff, but he also empowered local staff, especially Manda and Sakazi and Ryan Jacobs, who went from an analyst role now to an actual assistant coach role. And I think the job that they've done off the field in Rivera's success, I think if the club had to bring in a different coach who might have brought his full own staff, they would have had to part ways with these staff members who do deserve not to lose their roles. So I think also with the 5-year plan you've spoken about in the past with Pirates, they're trying to build gradually and not have to sort of rip up the script and start all over again. And this coach is clearly in his interviews not demanded his own technical team. He said he can work with who's there, which I think is becoming more common in modern football because of the rise of sporting directors who want continuity in the backroom staff, and they don't want the manager to be, or the head coach to be, bringing a bunch of staff and players and then they depart and they have to change everything up. So I think that's really the big issue: continuity to build on what Rivera has done over the last 3 years.
So, Pirates fans out there, it looks like it's very clear. We know Pirates have got this 5-year plan. And as Grant says, Rulani comes in with a whole big team. That basically takes the Pirates plan to one side and becomes the Rulani plan. And that's no disrespect to Rulani. Pirates have gone the exact opposite way. So we've got the plan. The coach needs to fit in with this plan. And that makes sense by having a continuity with the backroom staff. Just a question, though, Grant, be that as it may, even with the Pirates, why is he the guy to bring continuity? It's not like he's been at a club with the same profile as Pirates. He's been at Maruma Gallants. It's a whole different ball game here. Pressure from management, pressure from being able to deliver the next stage of this 5-year plan. And I don't think there was much of a plan at Gallants, with all due respect. It was save us from relegation, which on the one hand is not a difficult thing to do. On the other hand, a very difficult thing to do. It depends which way you look at it. But let's just look at why him? Where in the numbers do you see that he's the right fit?
I think if you look at the numbers and the stats behind his Gallants team, you're not going to see a fit to Pirates because, of course, at that club, as you say, it was all about results. It was about grinding out wins. They got 19 points from 12 games. They actually look dead and buried at the time he arrived, and he did pull off a minor miracle to keep them up. But I looked at some of their games. They beat Pirates. They had 29% of the ball in that game. They beat Chiefs with 37% possession. And yes, his teams were effective in those games. They got forward on the counter-attack and were very hard to beat. But at Pirates, he won't have that luxury. They'll be playing against pretty much low blocks every single week. Maybe as games open up and they 2-0 up and so forth, they can sit off and sort of kill games off on the break. But generally, games are going to be played against a reinforced defense. So we know he can coach that type of style. If he goes to Pirates and then he plays more of the Pirates brand, then I think we'll be able to say he's a very well-rounded coach, because not many coaches can actually play 2 such different styles in such a short space of time. So I think that's part of it. He'd also, I think the coaching staff that are already there will have some say in the training. So that's hopefully the way they can get the continuity across. But then they go out and sign quite a few new players. They've signed already 3 or 4 new players, and Mbule is another one. 3 of those are in midfield already. They got Sitho Mbule, Sipho Mbule and also Nemtajela from Gallants in midfield. So he might have continuity in the staff, but they've got a new coach and they've got a lot of new players as well. So there's still going to be a bit of a sort of bridging period there where he's going to have to integrate these guys. And of course, living up to Rivera's success is really not an easy thing. I mean, he got 5 trophies in 3 seasons. Pirates won quite a long trophy. I wouldn't say drop because they had 1 trophy with Joseph Zimbabwe, but I think it was like 1 trophy in 6 or 7 years before Rivera took over. And now they've smashed out 5 in 3 seasons, other cup finals as well. So it's not an easy task to live up to. It's almost difficult to be the next man. You want to really be the second coach after Rivera, ideally, if you could be, because then you don't have his sort of legacy hanging over you.
It made, yeah. But I want to make a point about the new coach, which I'm certain that the management would have made as well. But before we do that, guys, we're on 45,000 subscribers, 5,000 to go to get the magic 50,000 Rand prizes. So please, guys, before we go on to the Sipho Mbule, I've got one more question about the new coach. Grant, surely the Pirates management team sat down with the coach and said, right, you've done well with Gallants, playing a defensive, non-possession-based game. What are you going to do to adapt? How are you going to make this happen? And I'm sure he had a proper planner in place. And quite frankly, my comment on it is that it's a pleasure to coach a team like Pirates with so many attacking players. It's not so much of a pleasure turning a team that's been a possession-based team like Maruma Gallants was, and then say, okay, guys, change your mindset to be completely a counter-attacking game. And he did that quite seamlessly, and I think that was a very difficult task. So I think this coach has got something that makes him able to get the best out of players. And at the end of the day, Grant, as a guy who's done so many coaching courses and managing players, that getting the best out of what you've got is what counts. And I think he's got that. Let's move to the biggest signing news so far this season, Sipho Mbule to Orlando Pirates. We're not discussing his talent, the potential of his talent either. Let's assume that he's going to be disciplined. Let's assume that he'll turn his life around. The question is, where does he play, and whose place does he take?
It's the big question, because he can play any of the midfield roles. We know he's a versatile player. We've seen him play in that midfield 2 deeper role. We've seen him play as a number 10. But at Sundowns, when he was really playing some of his best football, he was playing on the right-hand side of a midfield diamond. And, Rulani Mokwena like quite a narrow shape. So it was Mbule on the right, Mokwena, Alende, those type of guys on the other side, and then Zwane as the number 10. So the first option is, yes, Ouaddou could change shape. So you could bring Mbule in with Makaula, Mbata, and Luli, those type of guys, and then have Maswanganyi as a number 10 and play a midfield diamond. That's the one option. The other option is he plays deeper, and he does that kind of sort of passing role from deep, because he's obviously excellent at receiving the ball. He shows for the ball a lot. So against some teams, I think he might play deeper. And then
he's strong on the ball. He's also strong on the ball.
He's very good at protecting the ball. Yeah, he's got his physique is good. He's great in tight spaces with sort of manipulating the ball around possession, around pressure. He's quite press resistant. So I think in the build-up areas of playing deep, he'd be really good. Maybe the sort of defensive question marks in that role would be the big problem, because him and Mbata would be way too open to play together in a 2. And Makaula, as great as he is in terms of discipline and energy, he's now in his mid-30s. Maybe he's going to play Nemtajela a bit more often. He's also quite a bit of a box-to-box midfielder. I've seen some games last year where he was actually getting into the area for Gallants, but he can also break up play. So I think, playing the deeper role, I think would only work against teams where Pirates are really dominant. Then is he going to play as a number 10? That's the other question. That's where Maswanganyi plays. We know the fans love him. But he had a slight dip last year. He only got 1 league assist. And it's good to have competition for him. I think actually overall, Kabelo Dlamini, who came in for Maswanganyi, actually probably had a slightly better season overall than Tito. So it's pressure for Tito to actually start next season really well. If Mbule is going to play as a 10. Some games they might play together with one player behind, just very disciplined, and then they have these 2 number 8s and try to break down these low blocks, which is something they still struggle with a bit. And of course, Maswanganyi can play wide. He started his career as more of a wide player. He played at Supersport on the wing quite a lot. He's not going to dribble past guys, but he can come inside off that flank, let the fullback bomb forward, and then he could play off the right-hand side potentially. Of course, they've got Salengan and Korta, so maybe that's not the ideal situation. look, it adds competition. I think a diamond could work quite well as a backup plan. So he brings options. That's sort of talent. If he's disciplined off the field, he's in good physical condition. He's going to give you lots of options, even as a substitute to come on in games when you might be struggling. You can come on and lift the crowd, get on the ball and kind of turn things. So there's a lot of upsides to him coming through the
I think
door.
there's another upside that you haven't mentioned, Grant, is that Pirates played, I think, almost 50 games last season. And, Tito, when he had his slump, if you want to call it that, towards the end of the season, a lot of that is fatigue. I don't have to tell you, you as fit as you are, your mental strength, you especially with all the ball goes to him to make things happen. And he's always got to be available for a ball and so on and so forth. I think there's absolutely no discussion that even if the two of them are challenging only for one position, that's going to be a big improvement for Orlando Pirates anyway, because you'll be able to go, okay, Tito, like they do overseas, you're resting for 2 weeks. Mbule, you got the next 3 games. Okay, you're resting for 2 games. You got the next 3 games. And they're keeping them both fresh because they're both superb players on the ball. They both could have been available for the ball. I think if this player can keep himself on the straight and narrow, it would be an incredible signing for Pirates and could catapult this guy into Bafana selection at the right time. It could be a miracle story in football that he ends up playing in a World Cup.
Yeah,
So the biggest problem is going to be the discipline. I think, Grant, good players find ways to play against each other within a system
yeah.
that obviously maintains the balance.
I think the one thing as well, Peter, is we've spoken about Tito. When he drops deep and tries to link things, he's not in the final third as often to actually play those killer passes and to run beyond the striker. And maybe he feels that his midfield too are not maybe that good at playing through the third, so he needs to come and connect the play. If Mbula does play deeper, Maswanganyi can really be patient and stay high up as a real 10 and receive the ball in those more dangerous areas to hurt teams. So then we might see Maswanganyi's numbers actually return to what they were 2 years ago when he got a lot more assists. So that could also be a way to unlock him.
Yeah, I'll throw one final pointer. What about playing Sibisi or Mbagazi as the defensive midfielder?
It's possible. Or to play a back three, and then you have Mbule. If he plays in a midfield two with a back three behind him, he's got a bit more cover, so he's not worrying so much about what's behind him. He can just get on the ball, and then Maswanganyi will play probably if Mofokeng's around as one of the 2 10s off the strikers. So that would also give some more sort of balance behind you that you aren't too exposed if Mbule is not going to track runners and all that type of thing. You can just sit in that central area, get the ball, and find these creative players in the pockets.
So Pirates fans, I think there are 2 things here. I think one, you've got a coach that I believe he is maybe tactically superior to Rivera. And it would be a major bonus. No disrespect to Jose. But look, from what I can gather, he's tactically a good coach. And that means the formations can change without losing the positive plane off the front foot. And then secondly, if Mbule gets his head together, you've got a top player to add huge value to the options that Pirates can play going forward next season. I think some of the other signings have got to raise their game to be at Pirates level, but this could be a very exciting season for Pirates. Grant, last question. As you see Pirates right now, looking into the unknown, are they going to be stronger than they were last season or not?
It's a lot to live up to what Rivera did. I suspect to even match what he did will be very, very difficult. So they'll probably slightly regress initially. It's just the way it goes. The new coach, Rivera also built on season upon season. He had such a settled team that he didn't change the lineup, and he kind of had this team that could be consistent. So I think initially there might be a little bit of a drop off, and I do feel maybe if they'd gone for a coach like Rulani Mokwena, even with the demands that he places on players and those around him, he could have been the coach that maybe could have pushed to 70 points, the kind of total you need to get to catch Sundowns. So yeah, I think there's positives to Ouaddou, but he's also got a lot of pressure to live up to, and I think he's not going to probably win 5 trophies in 3 years. So I think there's probably going to be a slight drop off. But let's see. I'm very intrigued to see how he sets up and how the early weeks go, especially.
Pirates fans, I'm more positive than Grant on this, but maybe it'll just be my personality. Thanks, guys. See you all again soon. Grant, as usual, you're a star. Cheers.